Welcome back to Midweek Meta, guys. I'm your host, Maddie, and I've got my wonderful co-host, Chris.
What's up, guys?
Well, Chris, before we jump into things, I feel like we gotta get a couple shout outs that way to everybody. We came back from the Salt Flats. It was wonderful.
Great time.
I want to shout out John and Daniel with Salt City for hosting an awesome event, and then Mythos Games out in West Jordan. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Once you pass Salt Lake, I don't know where you're at. so, either way.
absolutely.
But thanks again, you guys, for an awesome event, and Mythos for having an awesome play space. Chris, you have some shout outs you want to do, and
Yeah,
we'll get to it.
absolutely cool. I have two different shout outs. First one is out to the Tula boys, really accepting Maddie, really great individuals. Jake, Ty, we had a good time having dinner after the event and just a till time. The second shout out is to the Ogden guys up here. We made up like 10% of the meta, which is insane. It's real encouragement to what we're doing up here and trying to cultivate is a group friendship community that's trying to be better at the game and trying to encourage lower end players to rise to heights and compete and see how they can do in the overall more competitive meta. So it's super great.
No, yeah, absolutely. It was awesome. And, oh, like I said, it was just an awesome event, and as we get to it, before we jump into that, how you doing, Chris? What's new? What's hats back, or did you catch all the Pokemon?
I did not catch Ash Ketchum has them all. Nothing too crazy. A little bit tired from staying up a little bit late. I bet the finalists from the Salt Flats are really tired. It was a 3-hour final pod, which is incredible. It's recorded. We'll probably put a link onto it to Grey Lotus Gaming, and shout out to them for recording and helping out the community.
But yeah, if you say 3 hour though, I made the joke in one of our discords that that's just like a casual game, Gog. Whatever, that's a big deal. But you have to realize 3 hours in a CDH game. Oh my gosh, that is a drag. That is a pull.
Well, yeah, just 3 hours alone as a game, but you have to understand we did 5 rounds Swiss, then we did semifinals and finals. So you're talking bare minimum, what was it, 70, 80 minutes per round?
80 minutes per round.
That's a lot of time. I think we went over.
And every round went over time.
Yes.
There was no round that ended before time.
There was one that went to 24 minutes overtime, which, I mean, for the 60 card format people out there, okay, you know, I've seen at like GPs like 45 minutes for turns, which is absolutely insane. But if it takes that long, it takes that long. So that's a lot. I saw some fierce competitors that normally do really well that were just mentally drained before finals even. So it's really a sediment to whenever you're done with your game, you can play more rounds if you'd like. That's fine. But really take a break. Take a break and remove your brain as best as possible. Even the fiercest competitors will get overwhelmed if they're in the think tank for too long. I mean, we started the day at 9 o'clock, and I don't think we got out of there till like 11. So, I mean, 13 hours, and then it was top 16.
We played Magic all day. And that's why I can't wait till we get to have some of these 2-day events. That's really cool to go to, because that's really cool if you realize that this event, it was 70 plus people were there playing.
Yep.
And it's the same weekend as the Boyle.
Yep.
Boyle 2 out in Atlanta. And then there was also a 5K out in Denver, or not Denver, like Rock Springs, Colorado, which drew a lot of people, I guess. So that's pretty cool that we still got so many people, and it was a great turnout.
Speaking of which, do we want to get into game one? What was your matchups? What were you playing? What was your seat order?
Yeah.
And we'll go you, me, and we'll just talk about our lessons that we learned from our wins and lessons we learned from more. I learned more from my losses than anything. So you want to start us off?
I learned a lot. This tournament, like we talked on the car ride home last night, and I learned a lot from this tournament.
Awesome.
But yeah, so game one, and I'm gonna hopefully get some shade for or some flame for this one. Game one, seat one. I'm going first.
Sure.
Game one. I'm seat first, Bravos and Thrasios, and then I've got seat 2, which is Brea, and then I got seat 3, which is Calomax. So player 4 was playing Croc and Thrasios, so it was a Storm teamer deck, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
So I was like, okay, two Storm decks, they're seat 3 and 4, but we got to watch them. I get a pretty decent start. Then Brea turn 1 drops a Lavinia, and I'm like, yes. You just locked down Storm for a hot minute. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no blue-black, so it's not like you're worried about a Thassa's Oracle in that pod right there outside of from Brea.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure,
Or even myself. I have that in my deck too. I could pop it too,
Sh-
but I'm not stressing it.
sure.
And it goes pretty well. We get to a pretty decent state. I'm playing the dungeon deck. I've gone through a dungeon a couple times. I've set up pretty good loops, and we're about 9 minutes left, and we're on player four's turn. And Brea's got a Smothering Tide out already and has a bunch of treasures. And this is a thing that caught my attention. He says that he's only going to cast one spell and pass.
Sure.
Cool. You say that, you say you do it, cool. But he doesn't.
Okay.
And I look at the Brea player and I was like, that moment you have to kill him. Because he has that kill him on board with treasures, because he has over 20 treasures and has Brea, so the artifacts, and the guy's at 13, 15 light. And so it became a very politic game. And it's like, I know I will 100% admit, I had a stary board state, I did, but I've played decent enough time against these Storm players, and the Brea player saw it. He said, oh, I'm just doing this thing, and next thing you know, he's going to generate almost like 10, 15 mana,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, yeah, you have to kill him on the stack. You can't let him live. And it just kind of, we ended up drawing. So it was what it is. It was a good game. I learned a lot from it. I was like, okay, I was on not a win high, but a good draw high. So I was like, cool, we'll step into the next game. It was very exhausting because we went to time, and I attempted to it on end step and wasn't able to. And it just sucks. But it was a good game. So
Awesome.
I'll give it to you. What was your game one like, man?
Game one, I won. I was in third seat, so Najila was turn one. Next one was Dina. This had the Chain of Smog one in general, and then me came in third, and then last was Atraxa. So with here, right, Atraxa's trying to go late, Dina's trying to go late, Najila kind of is going to try to turbo, and they're going first. So I kept, I think, a second 7, maybe a 6, and I had one piece of interaction. I knew with this piece of action, I might be able to answer a couple of different things. It was a Chain of Vapor in my opening hand. Lands, Chain of Vapor, a couple different dorks. I'm like, okay, we'll get there if we need more interaction. So, cool, Najila went for the creature combo-ish line multiple times throughout the game, and I always had the Chain of Vapor just in case. Dina, same thing. Atraxa, potentially the same thing if they try to copy it or whatever, if they ever get Atraxa down. So I'm like, cool, I have one piece of interaction that deals with creature-based combos. If they try to go for an Underworld Breach, maybe I'm a little bit out of luck, but maybe I'll draw into it. So I'm like, cool, this is a reasonable hand. So I started off decently strong. I tried not to get a hand that I could just dump my entire hand and then become the threat, whereas Najila was going to do that just fine. So Atraxa being 4th seat eventually got down a Rhystic Study and was able to draw enough to deal with first and second attempt from Najila. Dina, I think, had like 3 different tutors that they went, and each time I said, are you grabbing removal? Are you grabbing removal? Are you grabbing removal? And they did not, based on my understanding, because they never used any removal on the Najila deck that was going for a creature combo. Cool. Killed Najila? Mm-hmm. No? Cool. So we'd had to pass it all the way to Atraxa, and I let Atraxa know, hey, I have a Chain of Vapor. I can answer it, but if you can exile these things, which I think he hardcast Mindbreak Trap and Force of Negation on both of the interaction pieces for Najila. So I'm like, cool, they're not getting those back. They have one more with Najila, and they're heavily going into that kind of thing, and they'd feed the Rhystic otherwise. So unfortunately, 1st seat kept trying to go off, so 4th seat was the last in line and always had to answer it, and eventually Dino went for the Chain of Smog combo. I Chain of Vapor that, went to my turn and won the game. So
there you go. Nice, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, it felt a little bit, whenever you have like one combo or fast deck, unfortunately seat order does really matter for that, and unfortunately I knew he had stuff. His body language just poised that he had it, and if not, we could have talked about it or whatever. And I said, I can answer one thing, but I can't answer both. I was open with him as best as possible because Atraxa wants to go long, I want to go long, and these other 2 individuals were not grabbing interaction for other people going off. They were trying to go for themselves. So I don't know if that's greedy. I don't know if that's the right play to make in this kind of meta where it's like, I need to win the game. I can't just answer someone and let someone else win. But unfortunately, if you go for it too many times, I think there was 4 attempts on the game before I finally won the game, and me and Atraxa basically try to hold it down as best as possible, and the other 2 just kind of try to do their thing. Okay. Game 2 for you. What do you got?
Okay, so game 2.
Yeah.
Seat 1. Uh, Here we go. Me playing Ravos Thras. Seat 2 is Blue Farm. Seat 3, Blue Farm. Seat 4, Magda. The
Okay.
pretty. I go to a second 7, and I have decent lands. I can get Thrasios out, and I can start spinning. So it's like, okay, cool, I can set that up. Not really what I want to do with the dungeon deck, but I start establishing. I open up with, I think, 5 mana turn 2 with Soul Ring, Mox Diamond, Felwar Stone.
Nice.
And then Ancient Tomb was my top deck. So it was like, okay, cool, let's go. So
Okay.
I had a lot of colorless, and I think I was able to get Thrasios because Felwar Stone, I wasn't able to produce another color because turn 1, seat 1 doesn't
Fair enough.
can't produce anything. But then Blue Farm kind of did some stuff, got Draenith out. Or no, they Ragavant. Second Blue Farm Ragavant.
Hmm.
Magda did nothing, or got a dwarf, I think.
Yeah, turn 1 dwarfs,
And then
newly
back
common,
to
yeah.
me. Yeah, and then back to me, I got another setup piece. Blue Farm attacks out of Blue Farm. They trade Ragavans. I'm like, whew, no
Oh,
Ragavans.
okay.
And then it just kind of turned into kind of like a stally game.
Sure.
Player 3 ends up getting it because we stopped player 2, all of us together, using resources, burning spins. And that's how I realized I overextended when I should have forced him to, being in seat 4. Or seat, technically position 4 because I was last in priority.
Sure.
I did, not necessarily got priority, but I wouldn't say that. But
It
I should
happens.
have forced other stuff instead of trim. Oh, I have this. I gave too much information, I feel like.
Yep.
But we got back to him, and he ended up going for it with an end step win, so it was pretty cool. Foreshadowing, not a great experience for me, but I had a great experience, not play wise, but game wise.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
So,
What about you, round 2? Give me a good experience here. Talk about me, dog.
good experience. The second game I lost, and I think I had a lot more agency in the game if I would have hit the right target. Kind of similar to you on game 1 that you're like, I didn't do the right thing. I learned a couple different lessons, and some of the viewers are like, of course you should have done that. And you know what? You're probably right. Sometimes over politicking is a bad thing, and not politicking correctly is also a bad thing. So in first place was Khazar and Ukima Sultai, food chain, pretty good deck. The second one was my best at second seat, super good. We had the new slicer, the creature slicer from
Yeah, Assassin's Creed. It's like
the Assassin's Creed.
Atheos.
Yes,
Yeah.
something like that. And then we had Grixis Malcolm. So Grixis Malcolm.
Hey, it's your deck, dog.
It's a good deck. I actually saw him in our finals pod in the top 16. He was the one that won it. So essentially, what happened is the creature slicer got out pretty early, as expected. Started beating face. So the other 3 of us said, "Do we just kill somebody, or do we let this? Do we try to like answer this?" And of course, let's try to answer this, because otherwise, if we are divided, he's the slicer individual is going to be winning in third seat. So cool, we need to come together. Cool, you hit me, I hit you. I guess the biggest thing about it is that it doesn't have goad. It just can't attack him. So even if it's the last player, you can't attack with it.
Yeah.
So it's a
And
little
it
bit
gets
better.
Counters. It gets bigger.
Which is very significant. I was able to get down my elephant and try to fight it, but it was a 7/7 by time my guy came down as a 6/6. I'm like, I can't kill it anymore. All I can do is block it. So eventually they get out Malcolm for Malcolm, and I flip into the elephant that fights, right? And I should have probably just hit the Malcolm. The biggest thing is if there's a combo piece on the battlefield, you might want to just hit it. So I over politicked. I said I will not hit it if you show me your entire hand and prove to me that you don't have a certain card. Glint Horde was the one that I named, and he said a little bit reluctant to it, and eventually showed it to me, and I said, okay, he doesn't have Glint Horn, but he has the combo win. Do I tell everyone he has a win in hand? Maybe. The Sultai player Ukima said that they had interaction, and I probably should have asked what interaction because they were completely tapped out. I thought, cool, free magic. So he had a mind break trap. I'm like, cool, with the dampening sphere, this man is not casting 3 spells. So maybe I should have like, hey, what's going on? The next part of it that was difficult is when it went to Slicer's turn, they tried to play a Jessica and said, I'm the most afraid of Kitten because Kitten just flipped once. Understandable, right? They're the most likely to win. It's like blue-black player, and then Kinnan, right? And I already told him, hey, I have interaction. That's all I have in my hand. I can flip again next turn, sure, but Okay, so I should have probably politicked and said, listen, this person is probably going to win the game. Do not play this. They played it anyways and said, cool, counter my Jessica. And I'm like, okay. So there's a couple different things, and we talked about it, and it's both sides are completely relevant. The biggest thing is, would you rather kill one person or kill nobody? Would you rather?
That's true.
Would you rather? You don't have any blue spells. Hey, I'm going to make them use a blue spell, not kill a person, and open up the gates. So cool. I have to counter this. He said you can do triple strike or whatever Jessica puts on it. It's already 7/7 with trample. Like, it's going to kill me.
Yeah, it's going to kill you.
I already have, I think, like 13 damage on me as is. I'm like, I might not even get to my turn anyways if people are afraid enough of me, right? So, so instead of, cool, I'm going to get Jessica, I'm going to do triple strike to one of these blue-black players, therefore, and then allow Kidden to have a counter spell to back up someone else's win attempt, because the writing's on the wall. This thing is going to swing in really soon, and it, probably could have won. They probably could have won the game, honestly, depending on how I flipped. But if I would have had my counter magic, if I would have hit the Malcolm instead of over politic and just do what I should have done of remove the piece that combos. Don't need to get fancy. There's a piece on the battlefield. You can blow it up for no additional things that you're doing. You should blow it up. Don't try to politic and get fancy. So that's one thing that I learned from it. And it might have gotten back to my turn if I would have had the counter spell, hit the Malcolm. So in the end, my loss was 100% in my power to change the outcome to get another turn. Would I have won? I don't know. Slicer may have won that. But instead, Grixis Malcolm was able to get there pretty much unaffected. I have nothing. First seat, Sultai doesn't have the right kind of counter magic, and then mono red. It happens, and it's just like taking ownership of like, okay, how do I do that better? Would I have won? I don't know, but I could have played that better. And sometimes over politicking, not hitting the combo pieces, being afraid, and just making the smart decision opposed to trying to over politic sometimes can bite you in the ass. So yeah.
Well, we can keep on this trend of losses because game 3 still in. Hey,
Okay.
Seat 1. Woo! Seat 1.
Okay.
But it was a loss. Ended up going to Seat 4. That's the best part. Seat 4 won.
Sure.
It was a very kind of back and forth game. I've got me Seat 1. I'm playing Ravos Thras. Seat 2 is Bruce Thrasios. I make sure I got that right.
Sure.
And then Seat 3 is Rog Thras again. Seat 4 is Timna Rog.
Yeah.
So Mardu, Teamer, 4-color Sans Black, and then me Sans Red. Established pretty well, and then Sans Red or Sans Black over here just drops off like Smothering Tide, Devoted Druid, gets Thrasio out, and it just has it. You're just like, okay, I guess he's gonna win. Well, he gets kind of stopped between the other two players, so cool. We work together, and then player 3 kind of steps up. When he attempts something, we work again to stop him. And we're all like, okay, cool. We kind of stopped everybody. I have Beseiju in hand because Seat 4 has Grinding Station. He could go for it. I can stop him. And then he's like, yeah, I don't got anything. I'm gonna dig probably. And I'm like, okay. I'll let you dig for a little bit. I won't let you. If I see a winning thing, I'll stop you. I've watched him play enough Mardu lines. I understand it.
Sure.
He ended up top decking Dual Caster Mage, had Twin Flame in hand. And it's like, yeah, you got it, dog. I was like looking, I was like, can I do anything? But no, he ends up getting it. It was cool. He was super nice, and he presented it in a way that didn't make it feel bad, if that makes sense. That was pretty cool.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
So game 3 loss. I'm on a 2-loss streak so far.
Sure.
So, but yeah, what about you? How's your game 3 going?
Game 3, I got the win. Once again, not in first, not in second. I'm in fourth. First seat was Minsk Beloved Ranger. Second was Yuriko.
Okay, nice.
Third was Blue Farm, and fourth was Kinnan. I was able to get it. I was able to get down an early Manglehorn, which didn't really do too much. Blue Farm was able to get out like an early Ristic and a Mystic, and they had a Soul Ring, and I'm like, I need to be able to disrupt, because they're going to be drawing a lot of cards. I need to be able to disrupt their mana. I think Yuriko put a 0-drop, 0/3 down, and I probably could have hit that instead, but I said, we'll see. Mana, that was the only real mana rock that was on the battlefield. So obviously Blue Farm is there. Yuriko's dealing damage, so Blue Farm is definitely getting a lot of damage dealt to them, quite a bit, honestly, which is what brought it way down. And most of everybody else that had creatures was pretty much attacking blue farm because they used their life. Even at like 13 life, we're like, cool, we're still kind of beating face because they used their life. No one else was using black like that. So I don't know if I convinced the team or everyone just kind of said that's probably the thing to hit. So everyone kind of hated blue farm until the very point where I was able to swing in with 2 spirits because Boo kept giving them to me. So we had Yuriko, right? Don't want to give them spirits, right? Blue farm, don't want to give them spirits. And they're like, well, you have Cradle. And I'm like, I don't have Cradle in hand. Do you want to give him ways to draw out of this? Do you want to give him more ninjas that deal more damage, or do you want to give him to me that does not have Cradle in hand? So eventually I was able to get down a X spell, and I X is 3 for a green creature. The discussion was, what is he getting, right? And X is 3 in green, right? What's the first thing that comes to mind for you? X is green.
Collector Roof.
Cool. In a Kinnan deck. Probably.
Sorry.
Sure, but that's reasonable.
It's been a minute. That's a hard one. I know.
It is. Everyone was saying it's Dosen. I had 1 blue. I had 1 blue available after this. 1 blue. That's it. Nothing else. No tap creatures. Nothing. Dosen. I was like, if I don't have Dosen, and if I did, I'd be handing it off to the Boo player. Right, because I'm 4th and they're 1st. So I'm like, cool. There's no way in the world I'm allowing that to happen. And then at this point in time, Blue Farm, I was able to swing in with 2 dorks. They blocked 1. The other one got hit, and that was the damage that they needed. Right, they were at 1 life. So Blue Farm's gone. Their Ristic is gone. At that point in time, now I can play my cards and do my thing. Right, but I have 1 mana after that. So I'll save you it. It's not Dosen. It's not Collector Oof. It is Enduring Vitality. It is the new card that's been added to Kinnan, right? And it is an enchantment that says you can tap your creatures. If they don't have Summoning Sickness, you can tap your creatures and make 1 mana of any color. I had Kinnan out. I had enough to be able to do what I needed to do to be able to play a Hole Breacher of some sorts, and then be able to make infinite mana with a drum and another rock that was in hand. So cool, nice. infinite mana at that point in time. No one had anything. Yuriko was the only person that had any blue capabilities. Yuriko went for a Doomsday, and I'm like, I don't even want to figure out if I don't win this match right now, something bad is going to happen. Don't want to figure that out. Cool, counter Doomsday. Boo or Minsk was able to then Court of Calling for X is like 6, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing this right now. I don't want to know what you have, and whatever it is, it's not good enough. I had Infinite Colorless, and at this point in time, I had 1 creature available to make double green. So I had Seaborn Muse in hand. So worst case scenario, things go sour, and they're able to counter all this stuff, and I'm not able to make infinite mana. I'll at least be able to play Seaborn Muse, untap, and be able to do my thing. Thankfully, that didn't come to pass. I was able to make Infinite Colorless. I was able to get down another bounce and basically be able to bounce all their different stuff. Hey, your blue stuff, your land's back to your hand, cool. And then pretty much say, cool, I'm going to do infinite damage or make you all draw. We good for this? So it was good. It was hard fought. It was really a lot of the focus was on Blue Farm because they played Ristic Mystic. They took a lot of the heat off of me. I wasn't scary, not deploying a bunch of rocks and going crazy and just saying, cool, I don't need to point at anyone and say, I'm not scary. They said they were scary as is. And sometimes playing Kinnan, not aggressively, going to drop everything or keep a hand that drops everything. I'm like, cool, land. I think turn 1, I went and got a dork and put it on top. Went to my next turn, play the dork, play the land. I'm like, cool, like, we're just doing our thing. Like, I'm not that scary. Like, yeah, I think sometimes with scary decks, being able to play out your game plan and be able to not be scary is huge. And if someone else, such as, game 1, Najila, scary, right? This one, Blue Farm, scary. I was definitely concerned about the Boo, and I knew that they could kind of take off if it got back to their turn potentially.
And again, congratulations on another win. So
yep, 10 points. Yep.
I'm glad one of us is doing good.
Yeah.
Go to round 4.
Yes.
Say right now. My first time non-seat 1. I'm actually 4th seat, like my whole game has been. So that one, I got Dihada seat 1, Goto seat 2, Najila seat 3, and I'm seat 4.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I keep a pretty decent hand. I can drop initiative turn 2. I was like, cool, I can start my loop, get going. Seat 2 drops a Blood Moon, and I'm just out. I got nothing. I don't run a basic plains. I don't run a basic swamp, so I'm out 2 colors until I get dorks out or rocks, and well, guess what? My hand has nothing of that. I've got red. I just have red mana, so we get to a point where Jihada kind of goes for a breach kind of will line, and someone had put telepathy out. Telepathy
The
out.
Najila player.
And so,
That was my turn one opponent for Najila. He was running telepathy.
okay.
Yeah.
Which is unique, and there you go. And so they knew I had my breaking trap, and I was like, I can't let this will go off because I don't know what. It was more like, I guess, past fears of willing into a dockside mana grip going, and it's just like, oh, where I could have saved it and probably stopped the Godo, because hindsight, Godo ended up winning here
Sure.
with combat. So, but yeah, I stopped that, and then Godo goes to their turns and ended up winning, and it was nice. It was a fun game. Like, that's what I would say. My games weren't great. Like, they were great games. The games were good, but I didn't like win. So, like, it wasn't like that. But I had great playing.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
what about you? Tell about your round four. How'd you do?
Round four. So at this point in time, I'm 10 points. I think I was top of the leader bracket for tens. So doing pretty well. So game four was Zur on first, Rafine on second, Blue Farm on third, and Kitten once again on fourth. Zur in this match was actually the one that took down the entire tournament that we'll get to eventually. They did pretty well. Rafine destroying. I mean, getting a Bowmasters with Delny is pretty insane to double trigger. And that's really, like, without that Bowmasters, I think I probably would have taken over the game. I was able to get down somewhat early Con Sphinx, and Zur was then snapped it back to my hand. I'm like, I'm just not casting this, especially with a Bowmasters out that's going to wreck my entire board. I think I flipped into the Nyx guy that makes triple my mana. So I'm like, yeah. So Kinnan, cool, kill my Kinnan, bounce my Kinnan, whatever. I still have a Nyx Bloom Ancient. Let's freaking go. So they eventually killed that with the Bowmasters. So I like a couple pieces, and I was probably taking over that game, and that's one reason why I kind of like Kinnan. It's like, cool, it is the Juggernaut. It is the Juggernaut. Sometimes the hits are just insane. Like, they're like, I can't afford to let you have the Con Sphinx. And completely understandable. I probably would have. Everyone had Aristic out, so they had Esper Sentinel with a Delny out. I'd be drawing a lot of cards, so they could not allow that. Con Sphinx, if it would have stuck, probably would have won the game entirely.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's one of those like very pivotal cards. So
it's very good. I love it entirely. Sometimes having those big beaters is nice, but so I was at 10 points, and really what it came down to is I needed a draw for top 16. I needed 11 points. The way that the new stuff's set up, you can't really easily draw. I should have pivoted the very last turn. We went to time, and Zur won. I had a Cephalid Coliseum. I tried to put out a big guy. I had Threshold at this point in time. I tried to put out a big guy that would try to. I think I tried to put out Con Sphinx. I think it got countered. I think is what it was. I'm like, cool, I'll be able to draw if he's trying to go for a win, and it's not getting to anyone else's turn. If I would have left up Cephalid Coliseum, the next player blue black, the next player blue black, the next player blue black, like in a reasonable amount of time, we were like 4 minutes, I think, when I passed turn. Instead of tapping out and getting it countered, I could have even activated Kinnan probably, but instead I decided the greedier route, and I said this will stop me. I'm like, Thassa's Oracle is probably going to be a win con, and just kind of like with Kinnan, it really is just like being patient, and if you don't play the deck enough, patience is not really a big thing of mine. I love Grixis, and that's not overly patient. Mono red can be patient once people tap out, and then you go for it on top of the stack where you don't have to interact with people. They can't really counter it too easily outside of Stifle. So not playing a deck for a little while, then coming back to Kinnan, I need to relearn patience. And if I would have been patient, I think I could have drawn this game and assured my top 16.
well, sucks that you lost.
Sure.
Like, welcome to the team. Like, come on in. It's
Sure,
cool. It's
sure.
nice. I'll keep you warm. All right, let's go into round 5. Okay. It's another loss for me.
Oh, no.
But this one I'm not gonna really go a recap because what happened to it, I'm gonna tell you. A player went for it, got stopped, and they demonicked, and they flipped their library.
Okay.
Well, it's still their turn, so they go to sorcerer speed or second main phase and just scoop. Well, now it's a 3-man.
Okay.
Well, it's round 5. They're at the bottom bracket because I'm in the very last pod because I've done horrible.
Sure.
But yeah, and so it just shifted the game into a weird space, and so and Blue Farm ended up winning. He was seat 4, or no, he was seat 4, ended up winning, but it's like you can't really do much in a 3-man pod in a CDH game. It just one person starts to go off, so both people pivot to stop him, and then they stop him, so the one person got advantage, and it was nasty. It was not bad. Like, both players are super nice, like
Yeah.
they're great guys, but it was not. I don't think it's worth to talk about. So it was a loss. Blue Farm got it. So how about you? This is your last attempt to win, get into top 16. Tell me about it. What happened?
So I need to draw or win. So either one's good
Okay.
for me. A loss is unacceptable. So I keep a reasonable hand. First seat was Yuriko, one of the players that we normally see come down to Ogden. Seat 2 was Mono Blue Orvar, I think is what his name is. Cool. He was seat 2. Seat 3 was Jasper on Justin Tyam. As if he's not naming that as his deck on Moxfield, Justin Tyam, something's wrong. Or got to get back in Tyam. Ooh. Either way, little back.
I don't think he puns his decks. But
I know,
okay.
but he should. He should absolutely, because if not, we're looking at you. So then I was in seat 4 again. Definitely started off strong from Yuriko, being in seat 1, being able to get like 2 dorks down pretty early, and then Yuriko I think turned 3. Orvar I think put down an early cursed totem, which cool. That kind of upsets me quite a bit because I have a lot of guys that need to activate. Cool, my mana dorks. I think I had an armored scrap gorger in hand, and I think it was my only mana dork. So like turn 2, I'm like, cool, I can't use this mana dork anymore. So that was kind of bad being seat 4. Okay, cool. No big deal. I'm just gonna play through it. Kept drawing lands. Tyam played some early dorks. Tried to play an early piece that would make artifacts cost more mana, and thankfully Orvar was able to counter that. He's like, not happening with me. In retrospect, it probably would have made the game for Yuriko to just completely win the game if that would have resolved entirely.
Mhm.
So they're like, cool. Anytime that you play a piece that like stacks out the game, if it does enough, Yuriko's going to capitalize on that. So playing stacks into Yuriko is not good. I had an early Trinisphere that I could have played, and I said, no, this will give the game away. It'll give it away the game to Yuriko or Tyam and let them just completely take away with the game. And at this point in time, my Cannon's not activating, my Dorks aren't activating. Like, I'm in dire straits. So I think
Yeah, no, totally.
I think I had a early Gaia's Cradle, and I'm like, I can't really use this, but I did have my early Armored Scrap Gorger, so I made a copy of the Armored Scrap Gorger so that I could play and eventually kind of get enough stuff to try and at least block. I had a bounce spell, and eventually Yuriko was swinging into me, and the Orvar player said, if someone can bounce this, you can exile the thing that gives, I think it was something, if it's in the graveyard, all your creatures have flying. I'm like, cool. I'm going to bounce that, which didn't feel good because I wanted to save that for something else to bounce everyone. I think it was a Cyclonic Rip, bounce everything back to their hand and then try to go off maybe. I'm like, this doesn't feel good, but okay, cool. So I did that. I exiled the thing. I blocked. We didn't take any damage at that point in time because now they don't have flying. I think Orvar traded with 2/2, so now it's pretty much just Yuriko on the battlefield with another Dork, Signal Pest, or something like that. So it's a long game. It's a very long game. I think my main thing that I did wrong is I explained to the table, I'm trying to draw. I tried to be a reasonable voice in all of it, saying,
well, that makes sense.
I am not trying to win. I am not going to overextend myself. I'm going to play these cards in an attempt to make sure that this person does not win. And it was mostly Yuriko that was presenting an early-ish win. They were doing a lot of damage. I think at the end of the game, I was at like 3 or 1 life, 1 ring included, but still, it was quite a bit of life that they were doing to us. And I don't think I did much other damage. So we're going long. I think, like I said, I think my biggest mistake was stating my opinion of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's very much, you have to be careful when you give that information about your standing, because some people in the pod, especially with how they're doing the system now where it mixes it better up, it can put people that have, well, maybe you and another person can take draws, but 2 people need wins, so they're not going to take those draws, which is a good thing. It should be like that.
Yeah, they all needed wins. All of them.
But that's so. I guess hindsight. So did you get the draw then on it then?
I did.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. At this point in time, I think we had two different rule of law effects on the battlefield. So once it got to my turn, I'm like, cool, just try not to die and establish as much interaction as possible on the board. Cool, I have Kinnan up. I fought through two. In retrospect, I probably should have done it a little bit differently, but I think I fought through two Cursed Totems. So Weathered Runestone was the Grafdigger's effect as well. I'm like, cool. I have to answer all of these, and I already got rid of my thing that bounces everything back to everyone's hand, and I almost got there. I almost got there.
Awesome,
I had a
Good to hear.
I had a Beseiju, and I used it on my turn, and in response, someone said, "Oh, cool. Well, I'm going to bounce your kid." I'm like, that wasn't a good idea. What I should have done is waited till they all play their spells and then killed it and then activated Kinnan and put another piece on to make sure that the board is completely locked out as best as possible. Would have been probably better. Like I said, two rule of law effects. You know, I'm like, cool, Beseiju. I'm like, I'm just discarding that. This is no cast. So I can still cast a counter. I think I cast a spell before that. I think I replayed Kinnan. So it was good. So probably some timing and definitely not explaining to people what my intentions are of being reasonable are. Thankfully, it didn't really backfire because Orvar was like, yeah, I can't let someone win, so your stance is pretty good. The tie-in player was also like, listen, I've drawn all day and I've won one game. Like, this is what the deck does. I'm going to lock down the board and try to get myself. Tie-in definitely could have potentially gone for a win. I think he activated Tie-in twice in my upkeep before my draw. So didn't really get there, but he was just locking down the board and saying, cool, I'm just playing pieces that make sure no one wins. So fortunately for me, it was a draw, 11 points, 10th place into top 16.
There you go. Congratulations, my man. Well, I was on bottom 16. More like, I think there was only like 4 people below me because they didn't get any wins.
Sure.
But it's whatever. Again, I will preface, like, I had a blast this tournament, having fun with everybody. All the games were blasts. But hey, let's jump into your top 16. Who was in it? Who we got? What's going on?
The top 16, I think I was in 3rd place. So the first one was the Malcolm Grixis that won my game 2. Really nice dude. He kind of struggled most of the game and could only get 2 mana and a couple dorks, so he never even got to 3. I think he had Thassa's Oracle in hand for the win, but could never get enough mana. Rich on Blood Pod was 2nd. I was 3rd in Kinnan. And then we had the blue-black that actually made the top 16. This thing's insane. I don't remember the card exactly, but it's when it ETBs, you draw 3 cards, and then you put 2 on top. Cool. Brainstorm. When it exits the battlefield, you get to reveal the top card. If it's an instant sorcery, you get to decide who that deals damage to, and then you get to cast it for free. Enter the Infinite, for example, was one of his ways to draw his entire deck. Eventually, he got there. The thing is, when it dies, each opponent can decide to make a copy of it as well and do the same thing of, cool, I'm going to make a copy of this, commander. Cool, I'll look at the top 3, put 2 back. We all decided that was not a good idea whatsoever because that gave him copies as well, which would die as well because of, they would make copies of it. It's like, this is not a good idea to give him copies. Like, you're giving him, if we all did it, you'd give him 9-ish, more like 3, but 9-ish looks, if you will. Depending on if he had a fetch land or not. And then the exit, the exit of the battlefield effects where flip the top, cool, instant sorcery, deal damage to someone, and then cast it for free. So we just couldn't afford to do that. I kept on 5. I think I had 3 lands on my opening hand and 2 spells. They weren't insanely good. Pact and Negation, and I forget what my last card was. I probably should have gone down to 4. My mulligans were just not going hot. I didn't have any green sources besides Gaia's Cradle, which was never online the entire game. Rich Bloodpod was able to search out an early collector oof. We went over it later at dinner and said maybe we could have grabbed this, maybe we could have grabbed that, depending on and I think maybe Drannith Magistrate would have been a good pick to begin with. I did nothing the entire game. I should have gone down to 4. And then the last player, obviously him never getting out his commander would have made it a very different game. So hindsight's 2020. That or even Bowmasters might have been pretty dang good. Cool. I'm going to
Yeah.
kill your commander every time that you draw 3 and discard 3, because I think it was like a 5/3 or 5/4 or
It's a 5/4.
Yep.
I've got it pulled up. It's Hitsugu and Kari. It's pretty cool. It's one of the cool like mixed legends because it takes 2 of the Kamigawa legends
Sure.
and puts them together. So that's
Yep.
pretty awesome.
And it was
But
Levi's first tournament, and he made it top
yeah,
4.
man, that is so cool, man. To have him place top 16 and then go to top 4 in his first tournament is so cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
shout out to you, man. That is so cool.
Yeah, he was an awesome sport. He had a lot of nerves, and the judges were really patient. With him and saying, okay, hey, if you need to take a break, like a lot of adrenaline. And I remember having that much adrenaline when I've gone to tournaments for 60 cards before, and I'm like, cool, like we have a limited time, thank God. But he was really nervous, and I'm glad that I was rooting for him in top 4. I think we all were last night.
Yeah,
like,
all of us at dinner last night were like cheering for him.
Yeah,
like we were going, come on. And like he presented that win with Demonic, and like everyone had to do the whole table, and that's what I love about CDH. And I think it's a great way to wrap it up right there. Is when you watch a game when someone presents and the whole table works together to stop them, but then it just doesn't give it to the next player. That sucks when it happens. It does. It happens. But when everyone stops one, but then the game continues for a couple more turns, which that one continued for like another 2.5 hours. But
yeah, it was long.
It was a long game. But Chris, we survived the Salt Flats. I had a blast. Sounds like you had a blast. You top 16. Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
You represented Ogden up there. Thank you. I appreciate you making us not look as bad. Hopefully some people still take my opinion. And I got to do one thing. Johnny, you made it to top 16, but the real thing, you got to win. I want to see the Destroy deck win so I know what it does. But with that, you guys, remember, stay confident, but don't be condescending. And we'll catch you next week on the next breakdown of this tournament.
Jeez, guys.